What is up, guys? Aiden Smith here with the Paint Your Path podcast. We have a super special guest. We have Ari Kabel, and man, we had a little setup situation. He has the official podcast. Where are you at? There's like an office or something in your building.
Yeah, I'm at my new job. So I started working here 2 months ago, Caldwell Painting in Memphis,
Beautiful.
Tennessee.
And they do podcasts like that. That's why they have the whole setup.
Yeah, they have a podcast here. They film a lot of stuff in the office too, like content for YouTube and that kind of stuff. So I got all the gear. Yeah.
That's super sick, bro.
Yeah.
Well, all right, why don't you give yourself a little introduction, right? Like, how you met me, where you're from, kind of the whole thing.
For sure, man. Yeah, for sure. I'll take it back. I know you know this already, but yeah, born and raised in Philadelphia. After high school, decided to start working for a painting contractor who's a good family friend. Worked for him for one summer, took a gap year. When I got back, all my friends, they're going to college. They're, staying on a gap year, doing all these different plans. And, I decided to give painting a try full time, just as an apprentice. Did that for about 2.5 years. I mean, moved up from apprentice to painter. Was doing that, loved it. It was hard work, but he was a great boss, great setup. He did a lot of high-end residential work, so I really enjoyed it. And then about 2 years ago, I quit, and I moved down here to Memphis, Tennessee. And first couple months when I was out here, I kind of was looking for work. It was a little tight. I actually my dad's ex-wife, she does property management. So I was like, dude, I was out doing Section 8 flips in South Memphis. Yeah, I mean,
that's how you get it.
But it opened my eyes, in that moment. I was like, I think you had a podcast with somebody. I'm blanking on his name. Nadine, was that Ben?
Ben Nadine, yep.
Yeah. So he was, when he said, I was looking at if I make, this much a day, I'm good, right? So that's where I was at with the Section 8. I was like, doesn't matter what I'm painting, what I'm using.
$250 a day, 300, you know what I mean?
That's
I'm
it.
good.
Yeah. Pay the bills, a little bit extra. That's it. So, oh shit.
Shout out to Philly, bro. A lot of East Coast vibes on this podcast, man. I absolutely love it.
Oh, man. Yeah. Big time. Yeah, I'm still a Birds fan. I watch every game, good and bad. You know how it is.
Philly just took a brutal L, bro.
Dude, it's unfortunate. It's really just injuries. I think they make bigger impact on games than we think. But
Nah, I agree.
Yeah, so I was working, doing this Section 8 work, and like I said, I was making money, but I really wasn't liking it. It was bad parts of town. The houses were getting broken into where I was working, so I was like worried about my tools, and all that stuff. And basically, my dad he encouraged me. He's like, why don't you just start your own thing? Just create an LLC, and just work your way up. I'm part of a, good religious community here in Memphis, and there's a lot of connections. So he's like, I'll set you up with some jobs and just get you going. And then I did that for about a year and a half. So that went well. I mean, as you know, I met you kind of at the tail end of everything, right. But the first 10 months were super busy. I mean, it was, I didn't have any sort of estimating service to like look at what the closing ratio was or like, profits and all that stuff. But, I was busy 40, 50 hours a week every day for about 10 months, and just kind of at a certain point, I know, as well, I was doing handyman stuff and painting.
Yeah.
And I feel like in a perfect world, you want to do both, but it's not possible. It's just
and you have an interesting story, right? Because you went from obviously just being the painter, the apprentice, to doing your own thing, and I feel like that's what happens, right? Whenever you go out on your own after making that branch out from painter to business owner, it's kind of like you're still a painter, but you're just like on your own now, and you get that initial influx of work, family, friends, whatever group you're a part of, right? They're gonna feed you. You're gonna get like, oh wow, this actually works. Like I can do this. Sure. And then that initial kind of free circle connections kind of run out, right?
Yeah, man. I mean, you know better than anybody else. Like Andy Elliott says it best. I'm probably going to talk about him like way too much on this podcast. But, he always says, dude, like when you have all this work coming in and it's really, you're overwhelmed, a lot of work, just keep on pushing it, dude, because and you know that better too. Like, it's going to just keep on pushing you forward, and it's going to keep you busy. In the long run, you'll be happy you did it. Short-term gain, long-term pain,
Yeah, man. And for anybody listening, Ari did go through the Paint Pro coaching, talking about his story and kind of going on his own. After that initial kind of like, bunch of work kind of started to diminish, he reached out to me. And how did you find me? How did you come across the coaching?
Yeah, so I saw you on Instagram. I know we talked about it. I seen like some other coaches on Instagram, and I don't know, I kind of didn't really get the vibe. It's like when you go to like get a used car or something, and you're just like, dude, like stay away from me, But
This
when I saw you, when I saw you, I was like, man, this is cool. And then I think I saw a video with you with the Phillies hat, and then I go, oh man, he's from Philly, dude. Let me see what's going on. So I know I had reached out to you that one time, and I wasn't ready for it yet.
Yeah.
And then that second time, it was, like I had said, since I was doing the handiwork and the painting, and at a certain point, I was done with the handiwork. I wanted to just cut it off, take it away, no more, nothing.
Yeah.
So that's what I did. I kind of rebranded. I didn't do like doing business as like a DBA. I didn't change anything with the actual LLC, but I just changed the name, new branding with you. Because even before I called you, I was like, man, I'm going full painting. So yeah.
Remember we cooked up some designs and you were just like, it just ain't it, bro.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. It's just like, that's the thing is making decisions. I feel like when you're working in a group of people, like everyone's different, right? But I think for me, when I'm in a group of people that are all thinking, we're all, okay, what's the goal? What are we trying to do right now? Whatever we're trying to decide on. And then you land on something, right? So in that case, when something as simple as a logo, it was just blown out of proportion.
Yeah, it could be the hardest decision though, because it's your brand, it's you, it's what's going to be on everything. Yep. So, I have like a side love for like marketing and graphics and designs and stuff like that. So I always kind of give it my, 2 cents and see what we're working with. But, ultimately you have to make that decision and like
getting good at the Canva. Getting good at the Canva, huh?
100%. Canva
Isn't your brother
warrior.
Your brother does that, right?
Yeah, he's a graphic designer, went to school, everything. And
wow.
Yeah, he does it like 100% legit, and he's done all my graphics, like this logo right here on the Smith & Co. He did. I purposely didn't want it to be like painting related because like I just want it to be a brand for me, and something that was like old fashioned but like high standards at the same time.
Sure.
Yeah, that was kind of my aim for
Smith & Co. I remember when I first saw it, because you had told me you had your own deal, and I was like, it kind of reminds me like in Philly when they had like, it'd be like Smith and Son, or like,
yes, exactly,
such and such and Son's landscaping, it has that kind of a connotation to it. It's great.
Yeah, because initially when I started my company, we were called Constellation Painting. And don't get me wrong, that was the worst name ever. Like,
it's good.
We went into that and people couldn't even pronounce it. They would just be like, I'm trying to reach constipation painting. And like,
that's crazy,
bro. Yeah, they couldn't spell it. They were like, writing checks and the name was messed up. So I was just like, whatever. Let's just change it. And when I first started, I had brought on family, right? My, mom's, whatever lover at the time worked for me. Multiple like best friends had come on, worked for me. My brother worked for me, like cousins, like you name it. It was really a family, like, vibe initially. That's why I came up with the Smith & Co. Because I'm like, you're getting my family, my name, and my group. That's kind of where it came from. And then from there, it just kind of was like stuck with it and made sense.
I totally understand.
Yeah. So, all right. So you found me. We went through the coaching. We were kind of building you up and getting you ready. And then something happened where you were like, there's an opportunity here with your current company. Talk through that.
Yeah. So this is the thing, right? So the coaching.
And you're young.
Yeah, I'm 22. Yeah, I just turned 22. Yeah, so the coaching was really, everything about it was great for me with the experience with it, because I tried applying the things that we had learned, and it wasn't so much that what you said was good. It was more or less some things I don't think it was in me to do it. Things like the website, right? Like I had a lot of trouble with that, and that was honestly just because it's the same deal with the logo. I just overthought it. And then when I sat down to do it, it was just procrastination. So, really, really what it had taught me, the coaching, was kind of like the truth about everything. The reality kind of set in, right?
Yeah.
Where I remember I was trying to create a Google page, a Google business page, which I'm sure you know is like the biggest pain in the butt. I don't know why
100%, bro.
why, I don't know why they do that. But while I was doing that, I saw the other painters in my area, right? Start looking at Google reviews, start looking at services, social medias. And as I was doing that, I was just like, man, like, this is going to be a long road. Like, I don't know if I can go, crazy risk and take a crazy risk for the next like 5 years, just pulling, just pushing. And so it turns out I had a good buddy of mine, Aaron. He does power washing, residential, commercial power washing. And he mentioned to me maybe a few months, this is like a few months before July. So around New Year's time, he told me he knows the owner of one of the local painting companies here that I've been seeing on social media, like all over my sponsor page. And he's like, hey, do you want me? I told him I was struggling a little bit. He goes, you want me to, set up a meeting with Bart, who's my boss? And I was like, just let me think about it. I'll get back to you. It was literally, I think, maybe 2 days after we talked, I was like, dude, reach out to him. Right. So he reaches out to him for me. This is in the summertime. Finally, Bart got back to me. We set up an interview. I came down here. This is actually pretty interesting. So I told you about my dad, right? So my dad, he was kind of anti the idea of me doing anything different but running my own business. At first, I was kind of angry about it. I'm like, man, come on, I'm 22. Just let me do my thing.
Yeah,
I got it.
You got time.
But at the other side of it was like, I'm going to do what's best in the situation and not keep dragging myself through the mud.
Yeah.
Because, not to go on a tangent, but it's really the truth. And you can probably understand this being a painter is like every day, man, I wake up, let's say I had to be at someone's house at 9:30. I wake up at 7 so I can have an hour to just mullingly get out of bed, just dreading the day. Because like you said, I have to do everything, the whole nine.
Especially in the beginning, if you're already kind of on the tools and you're accustomed to that, like it's hard to make that switch. Honestly, it is.
It's tough.
It's a lot undertaking, especially doing it the right way. Because now you've seen with your current company, we'll talk about that, but like a high level company and everything that goes into it, right? It's not like something you can just do overnight, right?
No.
So it's like you kind of have to realize like, dang, I can go now learn from this company being so young, being already kind of like educated on the trade. I went through a high level coaching program. I already had apprentice kind of knowledge of, how to do the jobs, the product, everything. Now you're getting that feeling of selling, the understanding of the whole entire process. And I think opportunities like that, man, are so underrated. Like when I had the opportunity to work with CertaPro, such a large organization, and like be in that commercial field and whatnot, bro, that had literally taught me so much. Like I went to school now for painting basically because it was like you had to do all these trainings, the jobs you're on, you're reading spec sheets and you're learning so fast just in the heat of the moment. And it's like the guy I worked for was a genius, like chemical engineer, like top of the line, like, hey, he knows how to run a business A to Z. So for me, having somebody, roll with me every single day and teach me, it was like, dude, that gave me so much confidence, knowledge, just the ability to see things at a high level. So for you, looking into that, I remember you calling me up and just said, hey, like, I know I've been running with my business and all, but dude, there's this really good opportunity with a high-end painting company. And they are high-end. I mean, if you look at their work and some of the jobs, dude, you're talking $1 million houses, acres. Like, you were like, dude, I think this might be it. And I said, I think it might be it too, bro.
Yeah, man. It was, it was that. And the interview that I had with them, sometimes I'll go on tangents. So I'm taking it back to where I was at. Right. So I did the interview with them. Went really well. I think it's really important to work with people that, you can be open and honest with, great communication, all that stuff. And actually, this is kind of a little bit deep, but in that interview before I came in, I was like, you know what, I have nothing to lose here, right? Because either I do this and I get it, and that's great, or I do this and I don't, I just keep doing what I'm doing,
right?
And it was kind of, so I really pretty much went in authentic as I could be, and that week they called me, offered me a job. I, took some time to think it over. I know I called you too about that because I was like, man, I don't know. Ended up just doing it, and it's probably one of the best decisions I've made as an adult.
It's beautiful.
I would say, yeah.
like-minded. I mean, they're believers, right? So it was like
Yes. Yeah.
you went into a company that you already feel comfortable with now, and that you guys can be open and on the same page, right? You don't got to worry about somebody not having your best interest in mind, right? That's a big part of the decision-making, you know?
Oh, dude. Yeah.
That was the same with CertaPro too. They were believers, and like that was
beautiful.
That was a game changer. It was kind of like, all right, cool, you know, we're in this. Let's do it.
Man, it really changes like the way that people act in the day to day, and like, you know, when you surround yourself with those people. Like first week of training here, I wasn't selling yet. I was just, you know, learning the ropes, the day to days, and Fallon, one of the other bosses, she said something was happening with some situation with the customer. I think it was scheduling or something like that, figuring it out. And she, you know, people were talking about it. And then I remember she said this, she goes, I'll pray on it and we'll talk about it later.
Yeah.
You know, and just that alone, like just hearing that, I was like, dude, I can't be in a more like more comfortable environment than this.
Especially the leadership, you're going to learn kind of the long-term thinking, hey, we're going to water our grass here instead of trying to see what's on the other side, right? Like, so many people think, oh, I have to do it myself. I have to go and build my own empire. I have to be this guy because people, you know, will look at me differently. And it's like, honestly, you have to do what's best for you. And sometimes what's best for you is investing in yourself and getting an opportunity or learning from somebody or a mentor or whatever the case may be. Opportunity that's going to allow you to say, okay, I can get comfortable. I can save up money. I can look long-term and either grow here, or it'll set me up for so many opportunities in the future. Right.
Yeah.
And that's 100%. What's happening, especially when you have guys that are high level, right? You don't go into a company that you don't feel so confident about and take it right away, you know?
Yeah, man. I mean, it's you know, you just have to make sure you place yourself in that right position too, because you can be in some companies too that might look like they're, you know, you don't know what happens behind closed doors is pretty much what I'm saying, you know, and like I said, that happened. It solidified it. You know, obviously I'm still like, hey, let's still take this one day at a time.
For sure.
Soak everything in every day of training. You know, it was about a month of training. So I said, every day I'm waking up early. I'm ready to go. I'm on the ball, taking notes.
Wow.
Just soaking it in because, you know, once that's kind of like you're on a leash, you know, once you let go, it's like, you know, go and do your thing, man. So
some business owners don't even have that mindset, bro.
Yeah, I mean, Andy Elliott, again, sorry.
That's your guy, bro. It's all good.
Yeah,
he's
man,
the man.
He had this one presentation. I think they had it as a live presentation, but it was recorded as a podcast. He had these two solar panel guys up, you know, talking to each other. He always has that, brings them up on stage, these two salesmen for solar panels. And, you know, he had them going back and forth. He was critiquing them. But the message that I really got from that whole deal that happened, he said, hey guys, like this is out to all the business owners. Like you don't know what your guys are doing. You're not on the phone with them all the time, right? And then he'll do the same thing. He'll call a car salesman, be, hey, I want to buy this Kia. I see it's for this much on the website. Yeah, and he'd be like, you know, I'm down the street right now at a dealership. Oh, is that the best price you can do for me? And it's like in the responses that he hears, man, it's like there's
They're
no
like,
care.
yeah, well, that's the price listed, so that's what that's what we're gonna do. And he's like, can't do any better. Sorry, hang up. It's like, dude, that's crazy.
Yeah, dude, because we're in the accommodation business. You know, I mean, we're pretty much, you know, it's majority of this is customer relations, just interacting and talking with homeowners or business owners. And you have to know the right things to say or how to respond to it, you know?
Dude, and I want to talk about that a little bit because now you're a sales rep, right, for one of the best and high-end companies in the Memphis area, right, Caldwell Painting. And I think you said last month you sold 80K or something?
Yeah, September I think it was closer to 100, but definitely I think it was probably 80 to 100, something like that. Yeah,
between 80 and 100 in your second month in the company, right?
First month selling,
First month selling, right?
Yeah.
And dude, think about that. You're making more than some early business owners making their own painting business.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
yeah. It's incredible, but like, look, now you're learning at such a high level, right? You're taking it serious. You're waking up, like you said, you're doing these things, building great habits. You're getting mentored by people around you that have your best interest. You have now motivation behind you with like the podcast you listen to and whatnot. Like you sent one in the chat and you were like, hey, I highly recommend before you go on your appointments to listen to this just to get pumped up, bro. Talk about your process and how you're selling at such a high level, doing 100K in your first month.
Yeah,
as
I
a
don't know.
sales rep,
So
bro?
I don't want to get myself in trouble. I don't know if it was 100K. I know it was close to. I mean, my goal per
Dude,
month is
80,
75.
it doesn't
So
matter. You know what I'm saying? Think
it
about
was
this though,
good.
right? If
Sure,
I were to tell you a year ago, right, and I
sure.
said, "Hey, Ari, you're going to be selling 75 to 80K at a high-end company in your area as their main sales rep," what would you say?
You're tripping.
It's
Man,
crazy,
you're
right?
tripping, man.
But you
Yeah,
took it serious. You woke up,
of course,
right? You said, "Look, this isn't no game. This isn't. I can't take these days for granted, right?"
of course.
Being so young and having that perspective, and we talked about things that
Sure,
you've been through and whatnot. That's
sure.
important, bro. That you
Yeah, man.
woke up and like not many people have that skill grained in them and that want and that drive. You can't teach
Yeah,
that, bro.
of course, man. Yeah, and I appreciate that. It's hard for me to see that sometime, but like I said, I told you before, like one day at a time. I take that in
Yeah.
my personal life. I take that with the job as well. And if you look at it that way, you're not thinking about not thinking about the past, not about the future.
Yeah.
You're in the moment, and that's the best way that you can thrive.
Dude,
But
think
yeah, man,
about how many painting companies would want to hire you right now.
probably a
You're
good amount.
Dude, you are like I'm telling you, bro.
I
You're like
appreciate that.
you're a main draw when it comes to like sales reps. Like you're the
Sure,
guy, even I know myself, just personally knowing you.
sure.
Like if you were in my area, bro, like you're hired. Like you got the job. I'm writing the check,
Yeah. I got you, man. Yeah. So, I mean, I know you had asked me what I had done.
Yeah.
So, like I talked about with the trainings, kind of soaking everything in. Initially, that first month, there was a lot of mirroring going on of, kind of the ways that I heard people sell in the moment or their interactions and, ways they might have walked clients through jobs on an estimate, right?
Okay.
And I kind of just mirrored those, like what my boss taught me, what another salesman taught me. I just mirrored the same way. So it was, I think the closing rate was like 47% that month on
Yeah.
September. And then October, like this month, we're looking at, I think it's like 30 something.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously don't want to get into the numbers too much, but
Sure.
that's just what to say it, to keep it at that.
Mm-hmm.
And what what my process is, I mean, the first month, man, like I said, I honestly look back now being like, I don't really know what I did, if that makes sense.
You're
Like
winging it.
I was winging it, I definitely this is what I was excited to talk to you about, right?
Mm-hmm.
Was coming from painting every day to then now cutting that all out, obviously, and then
Yeah.
just selling to people. What happened was really early on was when I would get to the closing, right? I did the walkthrough, we talked about everything, got through our questionnaires, all that stuff, and now I'm showing them the price. Like this is
Mm-hmm.
this is the big moment right here. When I would get objections, a lot of times my mind turns back to production. Like, why is this expensive? I go, oh, well, we're using, such and such paint from
Yeah.
Sherwin or such
3 to
and
4
such
days,
from
5
Ben.
guys.
Yeah, exactly. I go to those words, and at that point, that's if you hadn't said that already, that means that you didn't really anticipate some of those questions they may or may not have had for you.
Yeah.
So that's something I learned pretty quickly. It was definitely kind of, I'll be honest with you, there was a couple of days where I was a little discouraged, where I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
man, how am I going to shake this mindset, because I felt a little stuck in that moment. But like I said, I just kept following through, and really I was kind of seeking discomfort in these moments. What I mean by that is kind of like being put on the spot from those people,
Sure.
right? When they say, why is this so expensive? Hey, I totally understand. Let me walk you through it. We'll go line item by line item, and I'll break it down for you. Like, I'm here for you. I'm here so that you can figure out what you're going to do with your house, your property. I'm guiding you there. You're
Yeah.
going there with me or not. I'm just that helping hand,
Yeah.
and that's where it put me out. I would say the last month in October has been a couple different things. One of them has just been kind of after the estimate, really thinking about it, things I could have said, could have changed a little bit. Obviously can't go back in the past and fix that one, but hey, that was a solid one. What did I do right? What did I do wrong?
Yeah.
Let's move forward. Keep doing
That's
that.
huge.
Yeah, that was great. And then honestly, for me, this is kind of stupid, but it's just the truth, right? So I told you I sent that motivational video or audio from Andy Elliott. So the last 3 weeks I've been listening to that. Pretty much every estimate I go to, I'll listen to it before I get there, even if it's back to back.
Yeah.
Listen to that. And then just this last week, I started listening to Metallica after the Andy Elliott.
Yeah.
Like, get something to
just
pump
like
you up.
Exactly. For the next one. Let's go.
Because honestly, it's not even, I love Metallica, but really
Sure.
it's just because, it gets you fired up, right? So just imagine this. I walk up to your front door and I'm like, hey, nice to meet you. I'm Ari, versus like, hey, what's going on? How you doing?
Exactly.
Like being friendly, kind, personable. As Andy Elliott said too, like no matter how much product knowledge you have, man, if you don't talk to me like I'm your friend or that you're,
known
personable,
me forever.
Yeah, then it's like I don't want it, man. It's just not for me.
Dude, and how important is that energy, right? Because that is something that I bought into recently, right? I was that product knowledge guru, right? I can talk systems, products.
Yep.
I can tell you everything about whatever you want in the painting industry. But when it comes to just that energy, that friendliness, that high vibe, how important is that to the sale?
Yeah, I'd say it's one of the most important things, if not definitely number one and number two. I mean, because these people, they're having you come down to their house. They may or may not understand what is going to happen, meaning the scope of work.
Yeah.
Some people are like, all right, I've had a couple painters come by, kind of have a general idea of what they might say. And then you got some people that, maybe some first time home buyers, or, maybe people are just not so, educated with blue collar work, and for them, it's like, oh my gosh, like, don't you just, can't you just slap some paint on the wall over there? It's like, man, but it doesn't go that way,
Yep.
So yeah, I think that's the most important thing. Also, like I had said, you're walking them through the process, but you're also making sure that they're being educated in some way.
100%.
So, if you're educating someone, you want to be as friendly as you can. A lot of the terms that we'll use are our painter terms, right? You have to kind of downgrade that to layman's terms. And sometimes it could be really frustrating. You might have to repeat yourself like 3 or 4 times. But to do that, because, at the end of the day, when people see that, they'll understand that you're being honest with them, transparent. And that's like a commodity, you know what I mean? So
I'm going to try and test you right now. All right. So this is for the listeners and some of the, contractors and painters out there that may be battling price objections. Okay. Obviously, we can talk about the better way to market themselves, the better way to represent themselves.
Sure.
But let's just boil it down to, hey, they are their pain point right now is price, right?
Okay.
They can't get over it. What are some things you do to kind of say, hey, this is why the price is what it is, or how do you approach that?
So I got a really good one for you, actually. So this is a specific one. So down here we got a lot of stained doors in Memphis, like front doors. So that's like a pretty much, I'd say, our number one thing that we do here. Like the crew that does that, they're booked out till December now.
Sure.
So yeah, with that, what I'd say is, I'll set the stage for you, right? I go out to lady's house, give her a bid. Let's say we're at $1850 for these 2 front doors, right? Just the case, the size, the condition they're in, right? We use a water-based stain, so majority of the time you're going to have lacquer, oil-based stains there. You have to strip everything down, start from scratch, right? So give them the price. Someone goes, why is it so expensive, right? So majority of the time, what I'll do when someone says that, I'll look out for it either in the beginning and or ask them in that moment, but just say, what has the maintenance been for this door since, like, before I've been here, right? Most of the time I'll get from people, we'd have someone come every 2 years to, put a top coat on there, put some poly on it, repoly it. And I said, well, how much does that cost, right? A couple $100. I'd say, hey, well, us staining this door, you're looking at 8+ years, UV protection in the clear and the stain. Like, wouldn't you say that, in 8+ years, repolying it every year, you're spending kind of the same amount? So people are in their wallets, man. Their heads are in their wallets most of the time. And that pretty much works every time.
Wow. And you can use that on anything, right? So like for an exterior, hey, wouldn't you rather go with a company that's going to do the full 2 coats, right? With the premium paint, pressure wash, like do all the things properly so it can last longer, and you can have you don't have to paint every 2 to 4 years, right? It's like, you're good for a good 8 to 10, pay a little more. So that's interesting. Yeah. That's a great rebuttal, bro.
that make sense though?
Mm-hmm.
You
No, for sure.
Yeah.
You're breaking it down from, you're like, look, you
Exactly.
can pay us a little more and it's done. You don't have to worry about it pretty much
Yeah.
virtually ever again.
Yeah.
Or you can keep having this guy come out and just keep recoding and make that a daily part of your life.
Yeah, I mean, that's another thing I'll bring up too for people. I obviously I don't go into too much of their personal stuff, but I'll say it like dollars and cents, right? Like, you're looking at your house now. So I mean, that's an investment that you have made for yourself and your family.
Yep.
And like, if you compare the cost of your house compared to what you're spending on this paint job, it's it doesn't, it's like a small percentage of it.
It's very
you know
true.
what I mean? And not only that, but if you're not using the right paint, this as well. Like you can get exterior rock can cost you thousands of dollars.
Exactly.
They all the time I'll go on exterior bids and I see exterior structural rock that we can't. I mean, I love to say, hey, we can get that for you, but I mean, we can't.
It's too late.
It's too late. Yeah, I mean, it's too late for us, but then that's why we'll network, send them over a referral to another contractor. But even then, it puts us in a weird spot because two things could potentially happen, right? One of those being they'll be like, oh yeah, he such and such just fixed our wood, but we're gonna hold off on the painting, because it was expensive. That might happen. Or one, you don't know who that. I mean, we like to trust everybody, but who knows? That contractor could be like, well, hey, my buddy Jeff, he's got a painting company. Maybe he wants to do this, and then they kind of, that can happen, man. Sneak behind you. So that's kind of the risks.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I got something else for you. All right. So some people that I come across, right, whether it's like they just come into the coaching or I'm just talking to them and we're kind of going through like their process with their business. Following up is kind of something that people are afraid to do almost, right? Or they try to just text, right? It's like, hey, how's everything going? Do you have any questions? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
What is your thoughts on follow-ups and what's your process and how aggressive are you?
Man, so that's a great question. When I know we had talked about that. I had some things to learn when we were doing the coaching. But when I first came here, dude, I was terrified to make some calls. Raw? Yeah, man, it was like I would leave voicemails. I'd hang it up and be like, "Oh my God, what did I just say?" Like what just came out of my mouth. Bro. Yeah, exactly. And I kept pushing it. Now I can more than likely just call someone just off the hip. I just look back at my notes, get ready for what I need to say, call them.
Great call. Notes.
Yeah. Oh,
wow.
Dude, notes are number one. That's like on the office. Yeah. So that's that. And then in terms of communication as a whole, I think, contractors, there's a kind of like a bad stereotype, bad communication. Yeah. They just disappeared for a couple of months. I don't know where they went, that kind of stuff. So the fact that we can, follow up with people, I do an estimate for a lady beginning of the month. We're not painting until the end of the month. And I follow up a couple times until then. I mean, that's amazing. Just say, hey, just still keeping you in mind. I'll be in touch with you as we get close to it. And that's
even after they're sold.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
Interesting. That's the difference, though.
Yeah.
There's so many people that they're just waiting for the colors and like they forget about that person until the week before or the day before, and then they're like, hey, we're coming tomorrow.
Yeah,
and that's the most pleasant experience, right?
Of course, yeah, and we actually, speaking of color, we have like a color sheet here at the office. Our office manager, she'll send a color sheet for every substrate that we're painting, the color, the product, the sheen, all that is on there.
Your admin gets that information.
Yes, correct. She does that, and she'll have the customer sign that. So for one, the customer is signed in, they're locked in, Beautiful. They know where's where, and two, it's good for us because of work orders, because our guys, when they're out there, they don't have to question where's where. They know it.
Exactly.
So
it's huge, bro.
That's the best.
You're touching so many good topics, dude. You're giving away the sauce right now.
Nah. Because it's about, consistency with a lot of this stuff too, and patience.
100%, bro. Dude, I could put out 100 videos in the next year, or whatever the case may be, the next couple months. And dude, 5% of those people will actually follow through with some of the stuff I'm giving out, right? Yep. So it's like I'm not afraid to give out content and give out some valuable stuff.
Of course.
Because one, there's a full painting business structure that everything ties into, right?
Yep.
Right. So when you take certain parts, really there's another thing that kind of helps put that all together, right? So it's like I'm giving you great info. It's useful. It's going to change how you do things, but there's still something else that you need a little bit of help on that can make that even better. So
exactly.
that tied with the fact that these people nowadays too, right? they lack that kind of urgency to let's go, to get things going. And I think urgency is key too, right? Because if you're not willing to, like you said, off the hip, pick up the phone. Hey, I got to make this call. I'm making it. No excuses. I'm not waiting and delaying and, oh, I have to get back to this person. It's like, no, this is how I make my money. This is how I make my living. And if I don't do it, now I'm setting myself up for a bad experience with the client or potentially losing an easy, winnable job, you know?
Yeah, man. I mean, listen, like there's some people, their pain points with contractors is one of them. Number one for a lot of people is communication.
Yeah.
And that's when they're doing the work, and then also beforehand. Because, if you're doing it before they've even started the work, if you're answering their texts, answering their calls, being
100%.
helpful, dude, I mean, you're locked in like that, because people trust that and they want that. They want those people in their house, all right? Like these people are coming into your house. You don't want some random guy, smoking Marlboro Lights on your front porch for the next month,
or smelling like cigarettes coming in,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Dude, no, and when you go in like to these jobs, right? Like selling. Some people think, oh, I have to be this boisterous salesman, right? I have to be pushy. And it's like they don't want to do that. So they kind of shy away. They kind of like, oh, I have to think about it. Okay, no problem. Get back to us as soon as you can. All right, have a great day. It's like, how do you toe that line without being that pushy sales rep that's kind of, oh, why don't you want to go with us? But we bring value. This is what we do. You should be able to see that we bring more than this other guy. Sure. It's like, how do you toe that line of, hey, I'm there for you. I am your trusted partner in this to get you across the finish line, make sure it's done right, versus, hey, I'm somebody that's just trying to get a commission check.
Yeah, I think I don't know if this is even right from like if you ask other salespeople or sales rep, but and for me, dude, it's almost like social cues, right? Like, if you're like, you're standing somewhere you shouldn't be, people look at you or they kind of have a demeanor to them and okay, it's my time to go, right? Yeah. I feel like it's that same kind of vibe when you're talking to somebody, and not so much about they want you to leave their house kind of thing, but more or less, what their urgency is on the job, kind of what have they said to you where it points to. Are they up on the fence? Have they been saving up this money and they're ready to go, right? Jordan Belfort, he'll call them like lay down clients, right? Where, before you even walk in the door, they know that they're going to sign that thing on the spot. You know what I mean? So it's really just, you have to lay on the gas when it's right. And that's just per situation, right? Like for example, I had it this week. This lady had called me. We're doing exterior for her in early November. She had asked me if I knew someone who does power washing because her guy, his machine broke or whatever the case may be. And I said, fortunately, we only do washes, prior to painting and or like, some other circumstances. We'll do it from time to time, but it's not the day to day. She understood. And then she calls me and she's asking, she also has a big paint job. Like I said, right. She calls me and she's, hey, when are y'all thinking? Like, is it still good, for the week of the 6th? We still shooting for that? And I said, absolutely. And I said, just to let you know, like, okay, so I said, y'all ready to go? And she was like, well, let me talk to my husband. I said, well, absolutely. I said, just to let you know, I can save that spot for you for about 2 days, like pencil you in. After that, I'm going to have to take it off and then just, we'll play it by ear and I'm still here if you have any more questions for me. Right. So I'm applying it a little bit, still being friendly. As soon as I said that, she goes, by the end of the day, you'll hear from me. I'm talking to my husband now. Just wait,
put out the bait.
Next thing you know, hour later, hey, can we mail the check? I said, nah, I can drive over. Like I'm on my way.
You got to grab that,
Exactly. Yeah. And that for me was probably the best feeling with the sale because, I felt like all the right steps were like, I know exactly what I said and what I did and like how it put me in the position I was at for that moment. So,
yeah. And also you just touched on something, right? It's like a give and a take, right?
Yep.
Hey, is that the best you guys could do on price? And it's like, well, let me look it over, right? If you could be flexible with the schedule, right? Or if you could go on this date, I think we can come down to here. How's that sound? Perfect. Boom. Done. Right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's hard to do that sometimes because, especially like where are you taking the money out of? Because in that
so I'm just giving you an example of like, hey, somebody's saying, hey, what can you do for me? And then you kind of give them something in return, right? Yeah. Rather than just, oh, yeah, sure, I'll give you a discount. And it's kind of like, well, can you go lower? You know what I'm saying? If there's a rhyme and reason, now it's like, okay, that makes sense. Whereas if you're just handing out discounts just because you have a gut feeling that's how much you can go down,
Sure.
now it's just like, oh, well, you can just take 10% off that fast. Cool. Give me another 10%, you know?
I can't even do that if I wanted to, so
Mm-hmm.
I get fired.
That's
I'm just
funny.
kidding. But no, I mean, because when we go out there, we're understanding the scope of work and what their dream is, what they want to accomplish with us
Mm-hmm.
being there. So we're almost doing a disservice to them if I were to chop some things off there.
Sure.
I mean, we could do that. I mean, we do that from time to time where, let's say we have someone on, we're doing an interior, right? I got
Mm-hmm.
Benjamin Moore Regal Select on the walls, pretty higher end paint, and they like it and they're, happy with it. But, if money's really what it comes down to, hey, we can bring you down to Ben, Ultra Spec, whatever the case may be. Hey, we'll just move them around, be accommodating to them. But also at the same time, when we make that switch, say, hey, just so you know, this is the difference between the two paints we just switched to.
Mm-hmm.
Because you don't want to beamboozle them, them thinking they're getting, Emerald or, Regal Select when they're really getting Regal, sorry.
But the good thing is they're already sold on you, though.
Exactly.
They're sold on the company. They're sold on everything you just laid out for them and the vision, right? The vision is huge. You need them to visualize what you guys are going to come in and do and why it's different, why it's more effective, why it's worth that extra dollar to go with you guys,
Exactly. That's beautifully said. Yeah. And it's really, again, I'm going to say it because it's important, right? It's their dream, not ours. Right. And that honestly, when I do think about that, even saying it out loud now, when I was doing my own stuff, right, and I was going out on an estimate, right, it'd be like, hey, we also want to paint the shelves here. I'd be like, oh my God, I got to do more stuff here. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
because I was mulling over all that stuff I was going to have to do. And something I wanted to bring up with you here, I don't know if you were going to bring it up, but just, it's so interesting how I price things out when I was on my own, dude.
Hell yeah. Dude, I mean, that's why I launched my own estimating mini course, because it's like, that is such an easy thing that so many people struggle with, bro. I mean, you're not, special on that front, bro. Like there are so many painting contractors out there that go in and they go, yeah, it's going to be $1,250 for this room. And they're just like, okay, well, I'll let you know. There's no, reason. There's no breakdown. There's no kind of, accommodating based on what they need done or whatever the case may be. I think you're good, bro. I think it's on my end.
What'd you say?
Can you see me?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so basically, hold up. It says Ari's mic and cam already in use. There's a little bit of an issue. I can't see you. Can you see me?
I'm not by the computer.
Okay, no problem. So right now, I just don't know if I'm the only one that can't see you. We'll continue on a new track. Okay. All right, so we'll say our last thoughts, bro, because we're having some technical difficulties and we're pretty much at the 45-minute mark. But what were we touching on?
I think we were talking about like how people were estimating things, like on their own.
Yeah. So basically, I launched a mini course separate from my coaching that is basically like, hey, I will give you a system that works flawlessly. All you have to do is get some measurements and kind of get an understanding of the prep work, and dude, you'll get the hours, gallons, everything. Like you're good to go. And there are so many people that will go in and they'll be at, let's just say 18,000 for an exterior. But then we break it down. They get the exact hours they know it's going to take, the gallons that they know it's going to be. They make a good profit on it. And we're at 14,000, but they're still making 60%.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? So it's like you could have been way more competitive, made good money on the job, paid everything, but now you're overbidding and losing that job, and now it's costing you a lot of money.
Yeah, man, that's why something that I do, I'll have, if it's a bigger job, sometimes I'll have crew leads, or my crew leads come out, meet me there. They tell me what they want on it. You know what I mean? Like, what do they want to get from this job? What's it going to take? And that helps you gauge it. And then also just, I have kind of like I used to have notes on it, but now I just remember it. How much does, one of these crew leads need per day to pay their guys, or take home? What's the day? So then if I'm at a tricky job like that, that's when I'll do that. I'll just say, okay, 4 days. And I know that from my experience, this is what it'll take.
I think it's good to have that person out to kind of give you an idea, but also we have to be in line with like our pricing, right? So like those big jobs that are complex, like they have the experience to do those, and they come out and help you, guide you, say, hey, realistically, it's going to take us 3 days, 4 guys, whatever the case may be. But it's your job to say, okay, this is how much the company can sell for. And even if it's less than you're paying them, it's a fair price because the hours check out, blah, blah, blah. Right.
Yeah. It's just, yeah, man, we got some great guys working for us, and it's just keeping them happy. Everything consistent.
And I do want to shout them out. I'm going to share my screen, bro.
For sure.
We're going to do a little shout out to Caldwell Painting.
Sweet.
Let's see here. So here we go, guys. Caldwell Painting, if you're in the Memphis, Nashville area, give them a call. High-end painters. I mean, you can see some of the work they're doing. It's absolutely beautiful. I mean, look at this house right here.
Instagram and YouTube.
Yep. Instagram is caldwell.painting for all the people listening. And if you are a painter, do you guys do subcontractors?
No.
Okay, so if you're a painter and you're looking to work for an awesome company, go ahead and hit them up. Hit Ari up. What's your Instagram, brother?
Ari.Kabel or Ari_Kabel. They can just call the office and they'll get in touch with me.
Call the office at Caldwell Painting. Hit up their website.
DM.
Go
DM
check
on
them
Instagram.
out.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Awesome, bro. Well, dude, I appreciate you coming on. We had a little bit of a camera issue, but that's no problem, bro.
For sure.
You're the man. I appreciate you. And yeah, bro. Any last words?
Yeah, man. I wanted to say I do appreciate what you taught me. Kind of opened my eyes a little bit. It's crazy how fast your life can change for the better. Probably just say for everybody, just in general, I think people to be the most authentic that you can on your day to day with every aspect of your life is you're just setting yourself up for success, man. And that just means financially happy, all that stuff, spiritually. If you just keep working at it, keep being consistent, it's all you can do, man. And one day at a time. Love to say that. Yeah.
Love it, bro. I appreciate you. We'll talk soon, all right?
Yeah. Talk to you, man. Thank you.
See you, bro.